This movie doesn't make sense. This movie doesn't make sense! Welcome back to Things You Missed. Last time we covered Pet Sematary, this time I'm taking on the movie-only sequel, Pet Sematary II. The way the logo is animated calls back to the blue light that shines from the Micmac burial grounds in the first one, but the actual tone of the movie does not remind me of the first one. It opens on a Hollywood movie set where this woman is reaching to open a coffin, it seems. A little bit of a hint that maybe her coffin is going to be pried open later on. But before she can open it, this hand reaches for her as part of the horror movie that they're filming, and later on we get a better look at that prop. It looks exactly like the hand that appeared a couple years beforehand in It. I later found out that it actually is the same exact prop, so props to them for reusing that. Pun intended. Another Stephen King reference can be seen on the slate, which displays the title of this movie within the movie, Castle of Terror. It could be a reference to Castle Rock, which is the location in Maine that shows up in a bunch of Stephen King novels and later got its own TV show. 33 takes? Yikes. Maybe Renee was lucky to have gotten the early ticket off that set. What I want to know is who saw this woman getting electrocuted and decided, you know what, I'm gonna knock over this 1K just to add to the noise. We then meet Renee's husband, who is a veterinarian, which I found interesting because Lewis from the first movie specifically says that he's not a vet at one point.
I'm trying to tell myself that I buried him alive. I'm not a vet.
This kid has to make the decision to put down his beloved dog, and Dr. Matthews is faced with a similar decision at the end of the movie. So then, like 2 hours after the funeral of his wife, Dr. Matthews is already checking out this attractive young housekeeper. If he had been able to keep his eyes off of her, he would have noticed the name of the moving company, Mayflower. Historically, the Mayflower was the name of one of the ships that brought the first European settlers to America. These settlers ended up driving away the Native American groups that already lived there. And this movie is basically about white settlers defiling an ancient Indian burial ground. But I'm with Dr. Matthews on this one. The hot chick is much more interesting to look at. She almost gets killed by a box of Renee's stuff.
Oh, look out!
Which sets up her eventually later getting killed by Renee herself. Dr. Matthews' son, Jeff, tags along as he goes to work, where he basically sums up the entire movie.
This isn't too bad. It's pretty bad.
For example, here's a newspaper from Coweta, Georgia, where they filmed the movie, even though it's supposed to take place in Maine. The town sheriff brings his stepson to get his dog Zowie checked out by the new doc, even though he ends up shooting the dog the very next night.
Come on, Amanda. Stop looking at me like that. He's had ample warning about that dog.
So what was the point of bringing him to the vet if you wanted him dead? I just don't understand the logic there. Also, Jeff tries to bring his cat to school and it gets taken by the bullies. I only bring it up because I'll probably never get to use the word catnap again, and because you might have missed this display dedicated to Jeff's mother. I guess it makes sense that she'd be kind of a hero in such a small town if she made it as a B-list actress in Hollywood. Also, when the bullies are running away, you can get a little glimpse of the mascot of the junior high school. It's the Lumberjacks, which may be another reference to the Native American versus European settlers theme that I mentioned earlier. During the bike chase that ensues, they ride by the Creed house, even though it looks nothing like the house from the first movie. Then Jeff goes to look for the cat in a pet cemetery that looks nothing like the pet cemetery. Also, the deadfall looks nothing like the deadfall from the first one. It also doesn't make sense how the main bully, Clyde Parker, which is an excellent name for a bully by the way, had time to hide the cat all the way in the pet cemetery. I mean, Jeff and the sheriff's son Drew were on his tail the entire time. Like, I don't know when that happened. But anyway, Jeff finds his cat and he and Drew bond over a mutual dislike for their step-parents slash sexy housekeeper, basically stepmom kind of thing.
The first day of school is always the hardest.
You're not my mother.
Jeff and Drew go to bury Zowie. At this point, you probably shouldn't be surprised that it looks nothing like the burial ground from the first one. In the following scene, we see the inside of Drew's room. I'm guessing he's supposed to be from Seattle or something because he's got a poster for Seafair, which takes place in Seattle, and there's a Mariners pennant near his door. This could also be part of the reason that he and Jeff become friends, both being transplants from the West Coast, though it's not explained at all during the movie. His parents are at the door to let him know that Zowie is back, and his mom gives Dr. Matthews a call to take a look at him. While Zowie is staying in the Matthews house, he turns up in the middle of the night in Jeff's room looking all SCP-1471. The next part takes place on Halloween, which was good to see because the first Pet Sematary movie skips over Halloween. But in the book, it's actually an important scene where Judd Crandall's wife Norma has a heart attack and Lewis saves her life, an event that Judd would later cite as part of the reason he felt that he had to help Lewis revive his daughter's cat by introducing him to the Micmac burial ground. Clyde Parker gives everyone an IMDb summary of the first movie in ghost story form as they sit around a fire at the Pet Sematary when the sheriff comes up and breaks up the party so he can punish his son with a little bit of domestic violence. But Zowie comes to the rescue and tears his freaking throat out. This is where things just go off the rails. Jeff and Drew have a sudden change of heart and decide to bring the sheriff back using the Micmac grounds. He comes back as a much nicer guy for some reason. I guess that's what happens when the person who dies is already more evil than the Wendigo. Back in Dr. Matthews' office, he gets back the results of Zowie's blood test, which say the blood came from a dead animal, as the ironic natural life pet product sign hangs over his head. Yeah, there's nothing natural about this doggo's life anymore. Wait, hold on right there. Play that back. Does he just start casually eating dog treats? What is wrong with this guy? I mean, I've accidentally eaten a dog treat before, and let me just say, they're not good. Dr. Matthews discovers that Zowie has escaped and stops by the school to let Jeff and Drew know. Does anyone else think that these two deserve their own 2000s Nickelodeon sitcom? Dr. Matthews goes to visit the former Ludlow veterinarian who's taken up taxidermy. Sounds like the villain of a whole nother horror movie, but he goes to ask about the dead animal blood. The old vet tells him that this happened once before with the Creed's cat Church from the first movie. Church does go to the vet to get fixed, but that's before he died, and there's no indication of Lewis taking him to the vet after that. The old vet does have a pair of antlers mounted on his door, which could be this movie's tiny Wendigo reference, just like the mantelpiece in Judd's room was in the first one. Meanwhile, the sheriff isn't trying to kill anyone, but he's completely lost it. Yeah. While Jeff is over at Drew's house for dinner, Dr. Matthews sulks in grievance, watching some of the movies that his wife was in. This is actually a real movie that the actress who played Renee was in, called Once Upon a Time in America. I'm kind of impressed that they didn't just take the whole Bride of Chucky route and just have Danlane Flugel in the movie as herself. The next day after Josh and... I just did that. The next day, after Jeff and Drew get done hanging out and being angsty, Drew notices excellently named bully Clyde Parker coming after his friend and performs one of the most impressive athletic feats in cinema history. The best part is that's actually the music. Clyde has some weird fascination with bike spoke related injuries.
There's a little accident. She's trying to get away and her head got caught in the spokes.
And just before Jeff's face gets chopped up, he's inexplicably saved by a zombie sheriff, who then completely does a 180 and starts killing everyone he sees. I never claimed that this movie made sense. He temporarily turns into Jack Torrance from The Shining.
I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Stupid!
Here's Johnny.
Hey, you know what's strange? In Pet Sematary, the road is constantly filled with passing trucks. In fact, it's kind of like a main point of that movie. But we've seen plenty of road shots, and there hasn't been one single oh wait, I see what's gonna happen. So the sheriff decides to revive Clyde and Renee for some reason. I mean, he does explain why he wants Renee, but at this point, it really just seems like he's doing random stuff. The only thing I found that seems to kind of explain his behavior is that the Wendigo never actually appeared in the first movie, so it seems like maybe director Mary Lambert could be going for a demonic possession type of thing instead. This cross that's usually upright in the sheriff's house is now inverted, and it looks like he went a little crazy with the chainsaw off screen and the lawnmower. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a reference or not, but the way Jeff is sitting in this chair reminds me a lot of Claire from Black Christmas. And this movie ends the same way as the first one, essentially, with all the zombies showing up and then dying in a fire. Except this time the fire is started by the zombies. The sheriff goes through all this trouble to bring these people back, and then they basically just want to die again. There's a clear chance for Renee to escape right here, but she just wants them to stay as she burns in a fire. So I'll wrap this video up how I started it by saying, this movie makes no sense. But we're not done with Pet Sematary yet, because the remake is coming out in just a couple weeks. So check out the video on the left to hear about the complete history of the Pet Sematary Wendigo. And make sure you're subscribed to CZsWorld to hear about all the things you might have missed in the 2019 Pet Sematary. Ring the death bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.